location profile. Like I said, this is Pfeiffer, Big Sur State Park, California. It's near the city of Big Sur. It's within the Ventana Wilderness. And I think, Joe, you said it's south of San Francisco on the coast.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of temperate climate all year round. So It's not too high, too low. Like a lot of places in California, just kind of perfect. Yeah. As far as weather goes.
So, to give you a little history about the park, Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park was named after a guy by the name of John Pfeiffer. He lived in a cabin.
I wonder where they got the name from.
Yeah. He lived in a cabin on the property beginning in 1884. He was the son of a gentleman named Michael Pfeiffer and Barbara Laguette. Lackett. The Pfeiffer family immigrated from France and were among the first European settlers in the area. Many features in Big Sur are named for the descendants of the Pfeiffers.
That's funny. Like, think about it nowadays. That guy just lived in a house there.
Right.
And now
he just lived somewhere
a park's named after him. Yeah. All this stuff's named after him. Just like some guy who just lived in a cabin.
First mover advantage.
Yeah, I know, right? Location.
Yeah. So let's fast forward a couple decades now to 1930. John Pfeiffer had the opportunity to sell land to a Los Angeles developer for $210,000. So a lot of money.
The 30s. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's a lot of cash. And the developer wanted to build a subdivision on the land. I'm guessing, and I already know the answer, but this didn't go over too well with people in the state at the time. It said, Pfeiffer instead sold 700 acres to the state of California in 1933. So
he's an early times conservationist, basically.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even back then,
turned down big money to give the land to the state for have it not be developed.
Yeah, even back then, when there was a lot more wide open parts of the country, people still didn't like to see natural areas get bulldozed, and so that's interesting to note. In 1934, the Monterey Bay Area Council built a makeshift camp wing within the park, but it was abandoned after the 1937 summer camping season. The next year, the Boy Scouts built a camp, I don't even know how to say that, Esseline, in another location within the park. The site was improved until 1945 when limitations of the site, closeness to the public camping facilities, and jurisdictional conflicts between the Scouts and the state forced the council to request reimbursement from the state.
The best part is back then it was probably like an armed dispute. Boy Scouts at that time, it probably could have got violent. Nowadays it would have been like, but we need to race our derby cars there. Yeah. Back then it was like, we've got bow and arrows and knives.
That's funny the way it's jurisdictional conflicts
between the Scouts and the state forced the council to request reimbursement. That's awesome. It cost $8,000 in improvements.
Yeah, they requested $8,000 in reimbursement from the state. So it says the...
something went down.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe we don't want to know.
The Scouts in the state.
It says the council continued to use the camp until 1953. Then the Scouts began building Camp Pico Blanco. I don't know why you said it like that.
That's from... what's his name? The actor that's I forget his name, but he says that in some movie.
Pico Blanco.
I'm hearing that in my head.
So, basically, that camp opened in 1954, and Camp Esseline was finally closed.
You know what I realized too? He was offered $210,000 during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And turned it down.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah, especially at that time.
It's probably $600,000 now.
Yeah, at the time when everyone was losing everything.
So I'm guessing Mr. Pfeiffer probably wasn't a poor individual.
Yeah, he must not have been.
No. Moving on to the climate of the park. Joe said earlier in the show, it's a pretty mild climate. The high temperatures in the summer don't usually get above, on average, the mid-70s. The lows are, December, January, never below 40.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a really pleasant park to hike in. You're not going to be in 100-degree heat.
And from the pictures, it looked like it was very dense as far as forest goes. So lots of cover.
So, like we said, the park doesn't go down much lower than 40 at night. So the best time to visit Big Sur is from September to November. In a typical year, they have about 300 days of sunshine. Big Sur's peak season runs from April to October. However, once August passes, crowds start to disperse and the high temperatures inland start to drop, leaving more room for visitors to wander on the coast and the mountains. So I'm trying to compare this to maybe somewhere I've hiked before that had a temperate. Glacier definitely wasn't.
So are they saying, like, you want to go to Big Sur when the beach isn't nice, basically?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's too cold for beach?
Yeah, maybe.
Because you'd almost think, like, you'd want to be there when no one's there.
Yeah.
So it's not crowded if everyone's going there.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I guess I did hike Olympic National Park, and I would guess that this is probably similar in a climate. I'm guessing Olympic is probably colder because it's farther north and rainier. I know that.
Yeah.
But if you've ever been to Olympic, this
seems like a cooler San Diego.
Yeah.
Like that's what like just sunny all the time.
Or a warmer San Francisco.
Yeah. Which is weird because it's like right in between both of them. Who would have thought?
Yeah. So going into some of the animals in the park, interesting story. Grizzlies used to be all over the park back in the 1800s and early 1900s. But European settlers, and this sounds terrible, well, they used to get paid bounties to kill grizzlies, but they would hang these basically poison balls of meat from trees, and the grizzlies would come and eat that and obviously die. And the last grizzly was seen in 1941, so there haven't been grizzlies there a long time. And
I'm sure they wanted all the pelts.
Yeah,
but
it's
what a weird way to get them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Poison meatballs.
They definitely wouldn't do that kind of thing in this day and age.
Yeah, hang poison meatballs from trees, which is also weird because grizzlies don't climb trees, so they must have been low hanging.
The technical term they used was bait balls of swine entrails. So, I kind of summarized. It's like
the official. They were issued by the local hardware store.
Yeah.
Bait balls of swine entrails.
So
not funny that they're exterminating the bears, but just like
no,
like everything back at that time, just weird.
Yeah. But currently,
it was normal back then.
Yeah, currently, if you visit the park, you're gonna see mountain lions, deer, fox, coyotes, and non-native wild boars. So at some point in the park's history, probably one of the ranchers or people that live there thought it was a good idea to bring wild boars to the area, and now they can't get rid of them.
We get rid of the native grizzlies and bring in wild boars.
Yeah. So that's the basic animals you're going to run into. So, as far as parks go, there's not a lot of dangerous predators in this park. Mountain lions, like we've talked about in other parks, might go after tiny children if they're left alone.
Yeah.
Wild boars can actually be pretty.
Wild boars would
mean.
Almost worry me more than a grizzly bear.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm saying more so when you're in the area because, from what I understand, wild boars will just start attacking people, whereas grizzlies, you have to give them a good reason or surprise them. And whenever we're in grizzly country, you just make loud noises, you yell. We didn't see anything.
No.
So, but a boar, I feel like would investigate noise and then be like, "Oh, attack!"
Yeah.
Like, why? Because I'm a boar. I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to a bit of the geology of the park. Moving on from the wild boar conversation.
Yeah.
It's a boar.
Oh, that was awful.
So.
Yeah, move on now.
Okay.
Now we're moving on for sure.
All right, moving on to the geology and terrain of the park. So there's a chain of mountains called the Santa Lucia Mountains that rise suddenly from the Pacific Ocean, creating a steep coastline. The mountains contain some of the most complex geology in California. The range is made up of rock originating from seafloor volcanoes, ancient mountains, streams, beds, and other seafloor sediment. And all you got to do is Google some of the pictures on Big Sur, and you can see these amazing pictures of the coastline.
Yeah, it's like the really cool ones where
it reminds me.
It's like cliffs, like rock cliffs. It almost looks like
Ireland.
Ireland.
Reminds me of Ireland.
Yep, Ireland.
Some of the pictures. So really cool. You got these cliffs, a couple hundred feet above the ocean, straight drops down. Another interesting fact about Big Sur is there's several fault lines that go through the park. So there's the Palo Colorado San Giorgio fault system, the Sur Hill fault system. It's a very geologically active area with fault lines.
Are those part of the San Andreas, or is that somewhere else?
I think that's somewhere else.
Okay.
Someone can correct us if we're wrong.
Okay.
And as far as hiking this park, it seems like a pretty, easy to moderate hikes. Nothing too crazy. I think the max elevation of the park is 5,000-6,000 feet.
Yeah, it wasn't. From everything I saw, like no one talked about elevation being an issue. More of like, hey, there's elevation gain.
Yeah.
So if you're like into flat ground walking, you might have problems. But if you're a hiker, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, and that was kind of the same way Olympic National Park was when we were there. It was nothing, not a lot of elevation, but
you actually get to enjoy it.
Yeah, you get to enjoy your
you
hike.
get to look around. You're not just exhausted climbing hills.
Yeah. So that is kind of